The Walking Dead has been very hit or miss for me, so it took a while before I got around to watching Rick and Michonne return and The Ones Who Live. But while it's not been consistently good, Walking Dead has been around long enough to give a look into a post-apocalyptic world rebuilding, shown across 14 years of multiple spin-off shows set in that world. There's some interesting stuff going on with it that's worth diving into, and since The Ones Who Live is still pretty recent, spoiler warning, beans will be spilled. We begin with Rick, now a consignee to a Philadelphia-based city-state calling itself the Civic Republic, because it sounds vaguely statish without giving too much away, I guess. The Civic Republic military is extremely paranoid about anyone knowing where they are. The CRM is also largely autonomous. The civil government manages the city, and the military does what it wants without any of this annoying civilian oversight nonsense. Somebody will miss the sarcasm there. At this point, the CRM reminds me a little bit of the Enclave from Fallout. Rick, along with other consignees, have to do 6 years of drudge work, building fortifications, culling walker herds and such, before they can earn citizenship and live in the city. A couple catches, though. No one can leave, they'll kill anyone that tries. And they sort the potential consignees into categories. The city is full of Category Bs. Team players, people that will contribute and be grateful for the opportunity to be part of the community. They don't let in A's, people who think too much, ask questions, strong leaders that could rally others and become a problem. Not that A's are considered useless. They get expended in involuntary medical testing. You can't stop reanimation if you don't understand how it works, and some folks gotta die for that knowledge. It's for the greater good. Trust the science. That work is conducted under the authority of a secretive group within the CRM, answerable directly to General Beale, formerly of the Pennsylvania National Guard and now bearer of the Junta Beret. The regime does all the bad guy stuff. At this point, the herds of shambling cannibal rotters are just weather, but the Civic Republic military, that's an enemy that will hunt you down and drop chlorine gas on you from helicopters. Rick didn't sign up for any of this, and he doesn't know about most of it. As the years go by, he gradually gives up hope of ever getting home to his family and fills the void with the possibilities of his new life. He, along with Pearl Thorne, are recruited by Lieutenant Colonel Okafor, part of that elite branch of the CRM answerable directly to General Beale and apparently to no one else. There's a bit of an SS quality about them. That comparison will be relevant later. That said, Okafor seems like a decent guy. He knows the two of them are A's, but he makes sure they don't get classified as such. He wants people that can reform the worst aspects of the CRM because he knows what's up.
I believe that A's will become soldiers, become leaders, or the only thing that could possibly change the CRM.
But when Rick finally puts his old life behind him and commits to his part in the CRM, his helicopter gets shot down and Okafor killed by none other than his long-lost apocalypse wife, Michonne. A lot of this show is fan service about getting Rick and Michonne back together, which I will admit to liking them in part because they remind me of another couple of undead apocalypse survivors I remember fondly from another life in another place. But it does result in kind of a bookend structure to the show. After some side adventures, it becomes an infiltration story. They go back to Philly. Rick is still being held at the trust the experts level of disclosure, but he knows that he is one promotion away from getting the echelon brief, which explains the big picture to key leadership personnel. Thorne already had it, and she emerged from it changed, no longer on board with Okafor's reform agenda.
Since I've learned what you'll learn soon, I don't agree with Okafor on everything.
Thorne is a true believer. Unbeknownst to Rick, but knowns to us, the plan involves destroying all other population centers, including those that are part of their alliance, the cities of Omaha and Portland. The World Beyond spin-off series a few years ago got into some of that, with evil functionaries watching as CRM troops led a gaggle of gobblers to Omaha and blew the wall open. You see, they've done studies and calculations showing that due to food shortages, diseases from the vast herds of slowly decomposing NPCs, and various other factors,
our modeling shows that non-necrotic human life, people, now have 14 or so years left on this planet.
They assume their models are accurate and determine that the only chance is for the CRM to hoard all the goodies, kill everyone else, and keep experimenting on people in the hope that they can find a way to stop the herds of Chumbawambas. Because they get up again. Imagine that, the people in power deciding that the solution to the world's problems is they get to decide who lives and dies. All of this is finally revealed to Rick, and to those of us that didn't watch Season 2 of Walking Dead World Beyond first, by the General. The conclusions are a bastardized fusion of environmental science, isolationist nationalism, and zero-sum thinking. It's not just a scientific assessment, it's a motivating ideology. And it's obviously wrong. The fact that they have to keep killing off viable, self-sufficient communities speaks to that. But whether it's correct doesn't actually matter. We know Thorne believes it, but does General Beale? Maybe he does, or maybe it's just an excuse to justify his power grabs. That's the thing with authoritarian ideologies. We never really know if the people at the top believe what they're saying, or if they just need us to believe it. Few things keep people in line with low effort like a good scary story about what will happen if we don't trust the authorities. It almost doesn't matter how many actually believe that the end is nigh and how many are just using it as cover. Either way, it reveals the underlying character of the CRM. They put on a show of strength and certainty with a veneer of science, but they're still the same scared rabble they were on day one of The Walking Dead. Their hidey hole has expanded from a barricaded building to a barricaded city, but they're still hiding in there, terrified that someone will find them. They mask it under clean uniforms and stacks of paper, but they're just as dead inside as the meat automatons roaming the continent in miles-wide clusters. Rick and Michonne infiltrate the CRM, learn about their plans, including an operation to depopulate Portland, Oregon, and ultimately defeat General Beale and his frontliner death squad. The ending is a bit too clean, neatly wrapped up with a bow. Rick kills General Beale, and then he and Michonne wipe out the frontliner force with their own chemical weapons. There's a fight with Thorne, who comes to see the error of her ways in the end, and the Civic Republic is dramatically reformed now that the bad beret man and his Praetorians are gone.
Command hierarchies and layers of operational secrecy indicate infantry units did not participate in the atrocities perpetrated by these highest levels of the CRM, thus presenting hope for immediate reform.
That clip specifically brings to mind some of the World War II revisionist arguments that place the blame for all the Nazi atrocities on the SS. It was those scary political troops that were bad. The regular army has clean hands. There was certainly compartmentalization and separate command structures, but the myth of the gentleman Wehrmacht officer always conducting himself with honor is a bit of a steaming pile. That's not how war works. And by the same token, the idea that the regular Civic Republic military wasn't part of the murder machine is a little tough to swallow. But it is the ending that the story needed, leaving on a high note with a family reunited and an evil force transformed into an instrument of salvation. The Republic purges the old zero-sum kill-everyone-else ideology. The civil government plays as though it was completely unaware of anything untoward, just innocent victims lied to by a corrupt group that's gone now, so we can stop asking questions about that. Mistakes were made, but we have a nation to build. To make another Fallout comparison, the glimpses of this new Civic Republic remind me of the new California Republic. It's open about its ideals, and while it will fall short of them, there's at least a resemblance between the stated idea of the thing and the thing in practice. But it's still trying to recreate the old world. It hasn't fully accepted the ambient conditions of the new one. In this case, the new reality that when people die, they come back chompy and someone has to stab their heads. That sudden change could potentially bring down our modern, interdependent and micromanaged, just-in-time supply chain world, but they're long past that. Shambler herds are predictable, they can be directed to some extent, and an individual biter just isn't that dangerous if you don't panic. I feel like The Ones Who Live is a chapter break for the world of The Walking Dead. It's the transition point where the balance shifts from little scavenger tribes to productive city-states. Maybe it'll work and maybe it won't, but having seen what that world looks like after 14 years of stories set in it, I'd like to see some more Walking Dead from time to time, to drop in every few years to see how the new civilization is evolving, what works, what doesn't, what kind of social and family structures become most common when the sick and the old need to be kept contained. Little things like, I'd bet 100 years on, every single door is going to have an obnoxious handle that requires precise coordination to open, and no one will think anything of it, except when they're wearing winter gloves and they can't get their thumb in to press the catch down one way while they turn the knob the other, and almost everyone will have to bust open some rotter's head once or twice in their life. Even the strange and horrific becomes mundane with enough exposure. Hi. No, carry on.